If you ever wondered why even the most bullish NEO investors, the likes of me that previously was extremely bullish, are starting to turn a little bit negative on the stock, I think this graph visualizes the reason why. You can see that NEO is extremely bloated compared to Tesla over the past 8 quarters, but even something more interestingly is that in the green, which is Xpeng, we can see that Xpeng step by step is cutting cost and their R&D budget per sold car is going like essentially matching up to the point where Tesla is. You can see that the green bar was much higher in Q1 of 2023. As time has gone on, they're essentially catching up with Tesla in terms of efficiency, at least in regards to R&D budget. Sadly for NIO, it's a different story. Sure, they also cut down a little bit, but they're still by far and away the most bloated company here. In fact, you could argue that they're combining the R&D per vehicle sold for Xpeng and Tesla combined. And the problem for NIO does not stop there. It's actually even the same scenario there for sales and administrative. You can see that same scenario, the blue, which is NIO, extremely bloated at some point in 2023, going down a little bit, whereas Xpeng was also extremely bloated, but they're definitely like going to a place where essentially you could argue Tesla is now. And Tesla has been very efficient over the past few years. Part of the reason why NIO is so ridiculously bloated is, you could say that it's the battery swap infrastructure, it's the sheer amount of number of cars. I mean, think about it. Tesla, although they're facing a little more like challenges over the past couple of months, they're still selling like 1.7, 1.8 million cars. And they're doing that essentially 90% by two models, Model Y and Model 3. And then Model S and X are essentially selling maybe roughly 100,000 a good year. Then recently, obviously, Cybertruck with a few tens of thousands. But the sheer amount of, the lion's share of the sales of Tesla is coming from two cars. And this is part of the reason why they are so lean and why they're spending so little money on sales, marketing, and also R&D. Whereas NIO is just, the amount of, I mean, they have so many different models that you cannot even just comprehend. Like, I'm following NIO on day-to-day basis, but I cannot even like mention, because they have like ET5, ET7, they have the touring variants of a few of them, they have ES6, ES7, ES8, they have the ET9 coming up now. Sure, that's gonna be with nice fat margins at the beginning, but I suggest that the moment the likes of Xpeng or Li Auto see that there's a market for that, what are they gonna do? They're also gonna join that market. So maybe in the first year ET9 will have good margins, but how are we sure that they're gonna sustain that in the long term? We can also see here the total vehicles sold. Tesla stagnating, whereas NIO and Xpeng, to be fair, has been gaining market share combined. But that's not the main point. The main point is that NIO is extremely bloated. So now going to the most recent weekly delivery numbers, insurance registration numbers in China. Tesla has finally starting to gain a little bit of a momentum here. We can see that it started in week 9, and ever since they've been really going strong, whereas NIO has faced the opposite. And I would say Li Auto and Xpeng has been stable. Looking at the comparison between NIO and Xpeng combined against Tesla in the red, NIO and Xpeng in the white. The year started really bad for Tesla. The other two completely outsold them in the first 7 of the 8 weeks of the year. But this last 3 or 4 weeks, they have outsold NIO and Xpeng combined. So that's good to see for Tesla, at least in China. But I would suggest that let's wait and see. My suspicion is that it's just a little bit momentary, like momentum for Tesla with the new Model Y Juniper starting to be sold. We know that the CEO of NIO, William Li Bin, he is very offensive again. I think he's starting to feel the pressure with everyone talking about. I mean, finally, even the most bullish people are talking about the net loss of NIO and how the company, seems to be not going in the right direction. He mentioned the refreshed 2025 year lineup. A few of them will be refreshed. There's some discussion about the NIO ES7 will be discontinued in 2025. I mean, you can see the sales there. There's the Onvo L6, the L9 coming soon. There's the ES7. So the question is, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, probably they just have too many different models. Why do they need that? I don't know. Quick look on the lithium carbonate price. Looks good, going down a little bit. Going to the 5-year chart, still stuck down in the lows. I don't have any expectations, bar a very extreme supply constraints that we saw in 2021, that it should go up again. So I think for now we're good. But yeah, the question of this week, I think, is that finally even the most bullish people are starting to question in NIO. And I think, as I mentioned and as I showed you, that NIO they are just too, honestly, they're too bloated, right? So why should people be surprised that the stock price has been tanking over the past few years when you see that Xpeng is doing? I mean, look at Xpeng there, right? They're showing that the management is in control. There's a clear trend downwards in terms of sales and marketing and R&D per vehicle sold. And they're actually, over the past couple of months and over the past quarter, starting to outselling NIO. Look at I mean, if you forget Tesla, they're so far ahead currently, although they are gaining on them. But you can see that the green bar, for the first time, I mean, there was one time in Q4 of 23, but mostly NIO has been ahead of Xpeng and by quite some margin. But now it looks like the opposite, and in fact Q4 Xpeng was better. But wait till you see the Q1 numbers. We are almost done with Q1. I mean, NIO is gonna come in at around 40,000, so we have to go back all the way to Q1 of last year to be at that kind of low numbers. But for Xpeng, I think they're still sitting at around roughly, give or take, 30,000 cars per month. So I wouldn't be surprised if actually Xpeng in Q1 outsells NIO by 2x. And that with fewer models, much more leaner organization. Yeah, so I think it's high time for the management of NIO. And again, you know, a lot of us, a lot of small investors, to actually put some pressure on these guys. I mean, look at the stock price. Even like, again, I've been in NIO stock for so long that I'm like a little bit cautious about celebration in the short term. And you can see that the stock went up fairly good, like 20% in span of 1 month or 6 weeks. And then in the past 5 days, it's down 15%. Why? Well, the earnings were ridiculously bad. I mean, they lost essentially $1 billion US. Let me tell that again. They lost almost $1 billion in net loss in the last quarter, which you can see here in the actual numbers there. I'll zoom in a little bit. 900 or 70 or 80 million net loss. That is just ridiculous, especially knowing that Q1 is gonna be 40,000 deliveries, so that's gonna be something really bad probably. Funnily enough, you can see that this was my first kind of estimates for Q4, and then I was like hoping, like I know I'm a little, at this point when I made this, I was a little bit optimistic, and I was telling myself, you know, they seem to care about being a little bit more lean. He says the right thing, the management says the right thing. Onvo is launching. This is, remember, I did this back in like September of last year roughly. Maybe we could see like a step closer to 650 million net loss, maybe even 540, right? But then reality came. I had a little bit of a reality check. I said like, no, this looks too good to be true. And then the actual truth was even way worse than my worst case scenario was kind of. So yeah, I have to be honest with you people out there. Like, I appreciate you watching these videos, and it's just, let's be real. You cannot continue in this way. Like, they cannot have 1 billion net loss in a single quarter and continue to build out this, like, you know, this swap station infrastructure. And the funny thing is that, you know, you see the average swap per station back in January of 2024 was 23. But funnily enough, there was a path, like they very quickly from like 2023, which was like roughly 15 swaps per station, went to 23, 22. And I was like estimating that by end of 24, they would be in the like almost 40 swaps per station on average. And they were on clear path to do that. But what happened was, just you can see the number of swap stations starting was roughly 2,300, and that was the same case roughly. They only added around 150 stations until August to September. But in September they started to like hit the gas again, typically being and just spending money left, right, center on everything possible. Neo phone and I don't know, Neo shirt, probably Neo babysitters at some point. So yeah, that's what happened. That the moment they started to increase the swap station in this just like ridiculous fast paced, which cost a lot of money to shareholders, then yeah, you can see that the year ended up with roughly 30 swap stations. Still, it's going up a little bit. Probably this year we're gonna be at, I don't know, like 35, 36. Still moving in the right direction, but slower than I thought. But yeah, so that was just a little bit of the main takeaway from this video is that if you're surprised why the stock has been behaving, I mean, yeah, they're losing a billion a quarter right now. There's no sign of improvement. They're saying that by Q4 they're gonna be profitable, but after all that has happened, how could we possibly trust this management? I'll tell you, investors, like my point of view from now on for Neo is that, let's see. I'm gonna go from, what I see. I don't think they're gonna be profitable at the current stage in Q4, not with the stuff we see now. But I'm up for being a little bit surprised for once on the positive note for Neo. It wouldn't, mind me to finally the management doing something real that they haven't done over the past 3 years. But let's wait and see. Let's not buy their grand ideas and ridiculous targets just on face value. Let's wait and see what they're actually doing. In the meantime, look at a competent management from Xpeng, and they seem to be able to deliver what they promise on a rough basis. So anyways, that's gonna do it for today. Please like, subscribe, engage in the comment section. I would really love to see your point of view. Do you agree that they are bloated, and not only a little bit but maybe to an extreme amount? And yeah, I would really appreciate if you watch the video, that if you could subscribe and like the video, because I'm struggling to get to 1,000 subscribers, and that would be a really nice goal for me to maybe reach that in the summer. So thank you for your time, and see you in the next one.